Alright, ladies and gentlemen, we're back. We're so back. Did some pre-releases this weekend, won one of them, came sixth at another. Not a bad weekend at all. It was a very fun time, and the credits are an interesting mechanic. But what comes after this? Well, we have Eternal, we have Premier, and we have Limited planetary qualifiers. Today, I'm talking about the Premier ones. Eternal's gonna be hell. I don't even want to talk about that for now. But Premiere might be pretty bad too for a little bit, and I'm gonna get to that in just a second. Why? Why is Premiere maybe gonna be a little bit rough for a bit? Aggressive negotiations. As it says here, you thought Force Throw or Triple Dark Raid was bad. Really, Triple Dark Raid just enabled Django, but you understand what I'm saying. This is probably worse. Force Throw was oppressive, but there were other decks that worked. This is basically just instant death. They are going to flip, and they're going to do way too much damage. Especially Vader, because you can aggressive negotiations and then chuck your hand to basically swing for like 15 damage minimum if you have a few cards in your hand, which you will. You basically just make it to 7 resources, flip, chuck hand, win. And even if you don't win on that turn, guess what? You win on the next turn when you swing again. Deidre is just enabling Agdag more, and Jin is, I mean, she's just built straight into it. You play Rebels, which are pretty aggressive cards, and then they die, and you draw a card, and then you flip her, and then you draw more cards, and then you swing. So basically, a lot of people, from what I've been hearing and what I've been seeing on Carabast, is you get up to 10, 15-ish damage on your base, and all of a sudden, their next action could mean instant death if they have a unit on the board. It's not a healthy way to play the game, but that's the current state of what I'm seeing so far in the limited play we actually get to have for Premiere. Obviously, there's no PQs yet, there's no store showdowns, so I can't 100% guarantee this, but just from my experience and the experiences of players that I've been talking to, this is not going to be pretty good for the start of the set. But after that, what happens? What do we get after the aggressive negotiation span? Well, we get the return of some old leaders, right? Your classic blue-red villainy leaders. You've got Kylo and Talzin. Talzin actually could be in the flavor of yellow now. And then we've got the return of Boba Fett, also in a different color. Why do they work? Well, Boba Fett gets to keep a lot of his indirect cards, and then a lot of the new cards that he's getting, the Defender, the Combat thing, that the Speeder that I can't remember the name of, Boba Fett, just BT1 is another good turn 1 for him. People were playing mono red actually in an online weekly play tournament and performing very well with it, so that's also an option. I just think yellow has some more answers to other things, but if you're just going strictly aggro, mono red, apparently it's working so far. The deck just kind of does what it did before a little bit differently. You lose out on the ability to ramp without green, but really there's not a whole lot that you're actually losing. So it's not that bad. Kylo, he's pretty similar. Obviously, you don't have the Force Throw that kind of kept you in the game early before. You don't have the Tarkin Town that people were playing with. But you do have new units. Chio Fane, what a guy. Guess what he's going to do? He's going to draw you cards, and then you know what you're going to do? You're going to play Agnek. But also, when Agnek goes away, because this list was kind of just built for that, you build it a little bit differently. Maybe you take out Chio, you go with a different turn 1, like the Secret of Sage. It's really not that bad. The deck still keeps at its core, which is one of the strongest flip turns in the game. You flip them, you play a lightsaber onto him, you profit. That's just it. He's just going to be a massive sentinel for any ground deck to have to deal with, and there's so few answers for them nowadays. This is what you get. For space decks, they get a little bit rough, and that could be bad in this meta, but also space decks do still have to beat the ground decks, so we'll see how it goes. Talzin Red, a little bit different of a list, more force usage here, but it's a pretty simple concept of hit their units or play events like No Disintegrations, Drain Essence, or Shatterpoint that are going to get them low, and then use Tal's ability and slowly chip away at their base. And then when you get to the later game, you have things like Devastator, they're going to help you close it out, or the Sun that are just going to make your few units on the board strong enough to either trade up, keep the board clear, or just swing at base. And then you've got Tal's Yellow, which is a little bit more control style. You've got Stranger and Finn, so two amazing new additions. They're really fun to play with. Stranger, especially, because a lot of higher end, higher cost cards have pretty similar stat lines. Now, obviously, looking at this, you can see, oh, hey, Stranger won't kill Anakin, but then you just Tal's an ability, and now it's dead, and now you've got a big Stranger because grit that they have to find a way to deal with and do that extra damage to. And then you've got things like Treya, Beguile, Shin, which are just the perks of playing yellow, and they just fit into the deck perfectly. Aside from that, we have what I think are the two most obvious choices for what people are going to be playing in this set. When you look at them, you just go, hey, this works. Like, they had decent success before. They didn't win any PQs. Actually, OE Virgins did. Um, and Luke didn't really perform that great, but Luke is basically the new Sabine. He functions fundamentally differently, but just the units that he has access to make it so you're basically playing a space unit, swinging a base, and then you use that ping to just kill off their units and put them at a disadvantage, especially when you flip and you can play topple and you just wipe their board and you have a good board state, or you're playing aggro. And Luke also just can't be defeated by things as an upgrade, which works really well with all of the upgrade hate we're getting. And then OB Virgin's Temple. I mean, Consular into Ghost, which for some god awful reason is not on this list. I swear I have it in my own personal deck. I just haven't updated this list. Or Queen is a fantastic turn 2 play. If you're putting that out there like Ghost turn 2 and then you upgrade it, you're kind of just having a good time against these space aggro decks that you're going to be seeing, and then you just keep playing Blue Leader. You've got Yaddle for just that restore spam, the Itinerant Warriors just to heal more. So you're going to be kind of repairing some of that damage you'll be taking after your ghost dies, but they have to punch through a big ghost very fast. Aside from that, the deck is pretty hard to interrupt now. I mean, obviously, we're losing the decks like Quinlan or Cad Bane that are going to ping you turn 1, so that turn 1 Consular is a little bit less bad because you're not going to be able to kill it turn 2 with something like Power of the Dark Side. You have to find other ways to push into it. The Land Speeder I have been seeing in a lot of decks sideboards just because you play that turn 1. Obi's not going to get forced. Turn 2 you kill the Consular or you just let it live because it's going to be useless. And it's a way to interrupt it, but that's cunning. That's one aspect that has a reasonable answer. Luke. I mean, play Spaceship Prophet, swing ship in base. This list obviously is not a finalized list, but it's kind of just showing you what Luke gets, right? You get a lot of the ships that were in the deck before. You're not losing a whole lot, and that's the biggest thing with Luke. And then you get Topple the Summit, which also isn't in here. Once again, these are not finalized lists. They're just things I threw together quickly, just to show you kind of what these decks get. Luke players are playing Data Vault. That's how good their options are. Their turn ones are a little bit worse than before, and by that I mean they literally lost the 1/3 Raid 2 ship, and aside from that, not a whole lot I can think of. And they got a new turn 1. So, are they really losing out? We'll find out. Aside from that, they got a new 4-drop. Luke players are going to be having a great time. Talk to Chazzer or Tropical J about it. If you know those guys, or if you're in the Star Wars Unlimited Discord, they're kind of like the current face of Luke. They talk about it a lot. New decks, what are we getting? 2 new, possibly fantastic control leaders. We'll see. Or I definitely think we'll do better than Krennic, just because Green Villainy is not as good as it used to be. You've got Tobias, which I'm saying is a luck-based deck. It's kind of like Piet, where in the way that if you get an amazing hand, he's disgusting, but if you don't get an amazing hand, he falls apart quick. And then you've got Chewbacca, which is another amazing aggro leader. He's the aggro leader from this set that we've gotten so far. I don't think anything else really compares to him in the sense of aggro, but we'll find out. We'll see. I think these decks can be competitive in a multitude of colors. Chewy in yellow mainly, but also I've seen people trying him in blue as more of a mid-range deck just to defeat the resource and do the thing that Han 1 players were doing for Anakin. We'll see. You never know. Um, Overall, this entire video is strictly meant as an encouragement to go out and try new leaders, make new decks, figure out the meta yourself. We don't know it yet. And yeah, you can wait until the first week of PQs, first few weeks, see what's performing well. Or you could be part of that first week of PQs and you could go out there with some jank and you could have a great time and win. And I think that's the way that Star Wars should be played. You don't need to go on the internet and watch these videos. I mean, they're helpful. You're watching this video right now. But make your deck, make it yours. Yeah, it's going to be the same as someone else's, probably somewhere down the line, because some cards just are objectively better than others. But figure it out, have a good time, enjoy the game. And then also, finally, this is a very short video here, I'm keeping it short and sweet today. Leaders with potential. Boba Fett, I mean, could be like Set 1 Boba, but just being restricted to only bounty hunters and having to defeat the unit with a bounty hunter instead of just returning it to hand or making it leave play a different way could be good. But do bounty hunters have good synergy? We'll find out. We've got Maul, which is possibly just a worse Talzin, possibly a better Talzin because he's a bigger flip. And he enables Topple more. Is Topple going to be an amazing card with Maul around and Luke? Is the price of it going to go up just as a card? Who knows? We've got Han Solo, who, strictly speaking, is a weenie deck because if you're playing 2-drops, you're now immediately losing out on Han's ability because they're an even card. Are his weenies good? Who knows? Find out if the hot dog cart man works. That's what I'm calling him now because he's the weenie man. And then Piet. Yeah, he's not in here as a meta leader. You know why? Because you have to ramp. And losing resupply and super laser tech is rough. But if you get Gonk turn 1, you can now turn 2 the expendable mercenary, which is basically the same thing as a super laser tech if you play it on turn 2. The only problem with this is, I just said if. You need consistency. Piet does now have access to the splash bases, which are huge, filling in the gaps of the capital ships he is losing, or allowing him to play slightly different units. But as a whole, I don't know if Piet is going to be able to perform consistently enough to be considered a meta leader. Overall, some of these decks I'm loving. I didn't put Akbar in here because I genuinely haven't tested him enough to see, and I don't think that he is going to be a meta leader. But so far, just looking at this meta, what I've shown you guys is a lot of different leaders so far. Different colors, different aspects. Now, some obviously haven't been shown. Like, Command Villainy is shown in one leader that's new and 2 that are maybes. But you could prove me wrong right now if you just go and make that deck and then you show up to a PQ and win it. I'm encouraging people to prove me wrong here, okay? This is a prediction. I have a small idea based off of the history of how these leaders have performed and their way their abilities work and their synergies work within this set because of answers that are leaving the game to them and the things that they are getting to access now with this new set. But overall, can't be certain. We're going to find out soon, and I hope this helps you prepare your own decks, because that's really just what it's meant for. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you next time.